welcome to a spooky special edition of SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero. I am joined by Rohan Srinivasan and Adam C., and we're going to talk about the World Series. Absolutely insane matchup. I was expecting it to still be going, but it's over. Dodgers win it in 5. Adam, start us off.
I mean, honestly, I thought we were heading to 7 once it was 5-0 last night. After the back-to-back homers off of Jack Flaherty, I thought that we were going to see a Game 6. It was going to go back to L.A. That's not what happened because a certain little event that we'll talk about later happened.
Yep, absolutely.
Not only that, 3 runs in the bottom of the first inning. Forget 5-0 after the inning's done. 3 runs in the first. Turning point of this game was Teoscar Hernandez's 2-run double. I really thought that was the turning point to get the Dodgers really over and win their 8th championship.
Yeah, absolutely, and the Dodgers do win it, their 8th championship, last one since 2020, trying to beat all the Mickey Mouse allegations, but absolutely an insane series. I mean, the Yankees just kind of fell flat, though. Adam, what went wrong for New York?
To compare a graphic that I saw in Game 4, it was a Freddie Freeman versus the Yankees graphic. Freddie Freeman had more homers, more RBIs, more extra base hits than the entire Yankees lineup, and he had 0 strikeouts compared to the Yankees' 23. That's right, 23 strikeouts in 3 games. That is an average of almost 8 strikeouts a game, and if you want to win not even a World Series, just a series in general, you can't be having 8 strikeouts a game.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to talk about Game 5, obviously the dagger for the Dodgers. But Rohan, I'll go to you. The Yankees led 5-0 after 4 innings in this game. You blow the lead with errors and just about everything imaginable. What happened to the Yankees and how did they do this?
Not only was it the 5-0, it was to me the pitching in per se. You know, Garrett Cole had 6 strikeouts, but he also gave up 5 runs. That's the reason, right? 5-0 lead. But also Freddie Freeman, we have to understand this is a big-time player, right? The Yankees cannot do anything about his excellence. And when Freddie Freeman, you know, he had his 2 RBIs, he's just been amazing, World Series MVP, and you can't deny it.
Yeah, and that's definitely interesting. Well, I like what you said, though, about Garrett Cole. 5 runs, all unearned, though. I mean, when you allow in a World Series, no less, but a Major League game, 5 unearned runs, that's insane. It looks like Little League. What happened?
To put quite simply, the Yankees fell apart. I don't know if it was a pressure thing. I don't know if it was just like, you know, really bad timing style thing. But all I can tell you is that it was a nightmare for the Yankees. Aaron Judge dropped the center field. Anthony Rizzo goes to first base. He grabs the ground ball. There's no one at first base.
Yep,
Garrett Cole's just like, oh yeah, buddy, there's first base. Just go and run to it. Anthony Rizzo's old and washed. How is he going to run to first base on time?
And injured, I'll make note.
He's injured at the same time. What was Garrett Cole doing?
Yeah, I don't
on that play? Because he's just sitting there and he's like, oh, there's the bag, buddy. Yeah, man, there's the bag. Run to it. That's where the pitcher's supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. It was insane. I mean, not to mention the Volpe sort of spiking it to Jazz, get that error at third. I mean, it's all in one inning. And then I think, like you said, though, the craziest thing is you could have gotten out of that. All Garrett Cole has to do is cover first, and you don't allow a single run. Instead, it doesn't happen. You allow 5, and just like that, everything turned. Rohan, what was the difference, and how were the Dodgers able to complete this comeback?
Dodgers were able to complete this comeback because of their fight at the at-bats. If you really take a look at the game and not just the stat sheet, the Dodgers did amazing at their at-bats. Like I said, Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, not Shohei Ohtani. We'll get into him a little bit later. But Dodgers as a team, they stepped up, right? Sometimes you do not need your best player to step up in the biggest moment. It's about a team perspective, and it's about the team showing up whenever it matters most, and that's what they did.
And a guy that I actually think did super well, as you didn't mention, Tommy Edman. This whole playoffs, this dude is in the 7 hole, and he's ripping it like Corey Seager was last year. I mean, Tommy Edman was just unbelievable. And in fact, going back to the errors, do you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of the 2016 ALDS Rangers Blue Jays. Remember that inning?
I don't want to think about that.
We don't want to think about that, guys.
That's actually what it reminded me of. Like, it was just, I mean, it was just a comical amount of errors. Just an MLB team can't be making that, in my opinion.
At least we didn't have to hear Bautista with the drive deep left field. At least we didn't have to hear that this year. So.
Oh, God. Still horrible memories.
Yeah, that might be one of my scariest memories for sure there. But this was an insane series. A lot of guys talked about stepped up. Rohan, who stepped up the biggest for you?
For the Dodgers, you got to go with Freddie Freeman. It's usually the MVP. You know, I want to go back to a series. It's in the NBA also, when the Celtics won the title. We all thought Jason Tatum would get it because he's the best player. Jaylen Brown actually got it. In this situation, Shohei Ohtani did not show up in the biggest moment. And sometimes it happens whenever Freddie Freeman, a guy who's still an all-star, is not the best player on the team, but showed up in the biggest moment. So Freddie Freeman is my MVP, my most exciting player.
Yeah, I like that comparison. That's very interesting. And Adam, I'll ask you, Shohei, didn't show up in this series. I think you could say he's one of the more disappointing players. How were the Dodgers able to overcome that?
I think the Dodgers were able to overcome it for one, like you mentioned, just certain guys stepping up at the right time. Edman, Hernandez, actually both Hernandezes in my opinion. But also, if we're just being honest, the Yankees struggled so much in the first 3 games. They put themselves in an insurmountable challenge. And then in Game 5, they just fall apart in the 5th inning. I mean, at a certain point, you end up beating yourself. And that's kind of what the Yankees did in Game 5.
Yeah, definitely. And no team has ever come back after being down 3-0, never even to force a Game 6. So this would have been a first, but not to be. Rohan, I'll ask you, who is your most, or actually, I'll go to you, Adam, this time. Who's the most disappointing player?
The most disappointing player for me, I don't know who else it is besides Aaron Judge. I mean, listen, all love to the guy. He had a great regular season. 358 average, 58 homers, 114 RBIs. Insane regular season, led the AL in a lot of statistical categories. And then he just goes to the playoffs and falls apart. He also dropped that ball in center field, which is what led the Dodgers to coming back down 5-0 in a single inning. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Aaron Judge was just useless. Like, there's no other way to put it. He sucked. He waited until Game 5 to actually make a difference, and even then, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, when you're being compared to a traffic cone out there, that's not usually a good sign, especially when you're the best player, supposed to be one of the best players on this team. But it doesn't happen, and in turn, the Yankees end up losing this one. It was obviously a tough series. I'll ask you, Adam, can the Yankees get back to the World Series, and where do they go from here, especially with Juan Soto on an expiring contract?
I will say that Juan Soto question, he was very vague. I don't know where he's going. If he stays, I think there's always the chance because, once again, the MLB, no salary cap. What's going to stop the Yankees from going and getting another Juan Soto somewhere else, going to find another star outfielder? Like, come on, the Yankees can do it. But I'm actually concerned about the Dodgers when it comes to going back. Because I've been saying this for a while. Their deferments scare me because they deferred Yamamoto and they also deferred Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani, in his 40s, late 40s even, is going to be getting paid $68 million a year. So right now, the time to win for the Dodgers is now. You have until 2034 until all those deferred payments start coming back on you, and you end up having to Bobby Bonilla yourself. So you better hope.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And Rohan, do you think the Dodgers have what it takes to go back-to-back after this title?
Not only the Dodgers, but the Yankees. Of course they can. The question is, will they?
Yeah.
And I got to say this on Halloween, guys. There's a scary, scary team out there in Texas who's actually getting healthy. You don't want to mess with them because they are getting healthy next year. The Texas Rangers, I have them winning the World Series next year. I know it's Halloween, guys, and they really do look scary.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of teams, a lot of competition. I can't wait to see what the Rangers can do.
Yep.
I'll ask you, Adam, do you think the Rangers have what it takes to get back into this conversation?
All I'm going to say is if you look at the Bochy dynasty years in San Francisco, he won every other year. We won 2023, sucked in 2024, but that was because of injury, so it really wasn't our fault. And in 2025, we're coming back. It's the revenge tour.
Yep. Rangers
winning the World Series, baby. Part 2.
Let's see it. I would love to see that for sure. So before we wrap up, I'll go this to you, Rohan.
Sure.
Juan Soto, make a prediction. Where do you think he goes next season?
I think he'll stay.
You think he
I
stays?
really think he'll stay. I mean, you're going to have to pay him up north of maybe even $500 million at this point. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just
they're
crazy.
saying I think $700 million
The
is a
MLB
potential.
is literally crazy. He's getting Patrick Mahomes money. It's really not fair, but Juan Soto is a great player. And yeah, I'll see him stay.
What are you thinking, Adam?
I think he stays with the Yankees, but, I could always hope that he comes to the Rangers.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but, maybe he comes to the Rangers. There was also someone that said he might go to the Giants. I think that was a terrible take.
Yeah,
But
it's not Aaron Judge, and that didn't happen either.
I think he stays with the Yankees. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I'm going to agree. I think he does stay. I think he was balling in the Bronx. I don't see how you move on from this. I think you're so close. I think the Yankees have what it takes. I'll go to you, real quick.
And just real quick, I really don't think one series will define a team, not Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. One series does not define a team. I think that if they can run it back, they have a great chance of actually winning the World Series. Sometimes it's just one bad series that can get you into next series, get you that motivation going, and really show out.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be exciting. But in the end, the Dodgers are your 2024 World Series champions in only 5 games. Absolutely insane series, and I can't wait to see what happens next year. But for now, we're going to move on to the Dallas Stars.
I'm so tired. I feel ugly. I'm not okay. I didn't know UNT had counseling services. Maybe I should check it out. This looks like the place.
Why should you join Talons?
We are very welcoming to people who may be a little bit hesitant. There's people currently right now in our organization who are in leadership positions who were hesitant before to join, and they found out that they just love the organization and wanted to be a bigger part of it. They post about the football games, everything they're doing, all their events that they host.
What's the best part about Talons?
I would say meeting new people, because the university, while it's a kind of small campus in terms of like physical land, there's a ton of people here. And so getting to meet all these people who have so much school spirit and love for this university and wants to spread that to other people, it's kind of like a little miniature family that we're in.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I am joined by Nick Volpetti and Emily Condry. And on this Halloween, I'm going to say Merry Christmas. We got all the colors going on here. I love it. But we're going to talk some Dallas Stars hockey. They're about to make their trip over to the Finland International Series. Nick, I'll start with you. What have you thought about the Stars so far this season? 7-2 start.
Yeah, it's been a great season. It's kind of been a collective effort. You know, you got guys contributing from up and down the lineup. I think the Stars have one of the deepest rosters in the NHL. So I think that's kind of showed itself so far in the season. You got guys like Matt Duchene. I mean, I think he's been the Stars' best player. He leads the team in points, 6 goals, 5 assists. Logan Stankoven, I think he's kind of taken a step forward so far this year. He leads the team in assists. The way he's able to see the ice and see things before they happen as a young player is really impressive, and it's not something you see out of players who are as young as Stankoven is. So, yeah, like I said, it's been a collective effort, which is great to see because the Stars, I mean, they're one of the deepest rosters, and that's definitely shown itself.
Yeah, for sure. It's been exciting. I mean, when you start a season 7-2, one of the hottest teams in the league, that's pretty good. Emily, how are you feeling about the Stars?
I agree. You know, they have the goaltending, they have the defense, and they have their top scorers. So they kind of have the whole like time.
Yeah, they got the whole package for sure.
So like they're definitely on a good run.
Yep. So Nick, I'll ask you, of all the players, you know, goalies, skaters, everyone's been great, but who's impressed you the most?
Like I was just talking about, I mean, Matt Duchene has been incredible. It was great that they were able to get him back. I was thinking that they might not be able to get Duchene again for the season, but they got him to that one-year deal, which is great. I mean, Tyler Say and Rope Hintz and Jason Robertson have been as great as they always are. I mean, they've got 4 goals each. But I think the most impressive thing has been the goaltending. I mean, not just Jake Ottinger, who we all expect to be great, but Casey DeSmith has stepped up and been great as well. Each of them have a save percentage over .935, which is just, I mean, that's almost unheard of for both goaltenders to be doing that well. So yeah, the goaltending has been great.
Yeah, for sure. You said Duchene. I think he's been such an underrated player. I mean, just when you got him off of waivers now, you know, not super expensive extension either, but he's really carved his role alongside the other veterans on this team. But I loved what you said about goalies. Emily, I'll go to you. What have your thoughts been about Ottinger and Casey DeSmith?
I mean, as a Devils fan, I am so jealous of the goaltending that they have. They have Ottinger, who we all know is just an excellent goalie. He also had a big year. He got married, signed an extension, and he's had a really hot season so far. Yeah, his goals against on average is only 1.84, which is so good. And the save percentages, like you mentioned, are good for both of them. And Casey DeSmith is just exactly who you want as a backup goalie. You can be confident that if Otter goes out, you have someone who can also win games for you. So they're really looking at a good
definitely.
season.
I was a big fan of Wedgwood, obviously, you know, former Star, former Devil as well. Just, you know, I think the role that Casey DeSmith has been able to fill, though, you know, those are pretty big shoes. You know, for a backup, he's been consistent and solid. Stars fans have really fallen in love with him, but DeSmith has really done a good job. So moving on, though, NHL Global Series coming up this week. Absolutely exciting to see the Stars going on to Finland. And before we talk about the game, I want to ask you, Nick, what do you think about this series for the growth of the NHL and just expanding the league to other countries?
I think it's great. I love the NHL Global Series. It's always fun to see the league getting spread around. It's mainly been in Europe, but I mean, they also went to Australia, I mean, which was good with the Kings and Arizona Coyotes, I believe it was. But yeah, I mean, each team, I mean, they've got a few Finnish players also. Like the Stars, you got Miro Heiskanen, Rupe Hintz, and Esa Lindell. Panthers, they got 4 as well. So I mean, I think it's great that you're not only going to have Finnish fans getting to see a couple of NHL games in person, which they probably haven't gotten to see before, which is great. But I mean, you're also going to have 7 players in total on each team getting to play in their home country. I think it's great for the growth of the game, and I think it's great that some European players get to play in their home countries.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of a homecoming for some of these top players, stars in the league. I'll go to you, Emily. What are your thoughts on these global series, and do you think this is something that maybe we could see even more of?
I think it's great. Like you said, I love that players get a chance to play. The NHL has a really large European fan base, so this gives them the chance to be able to see a game live, which they usually wouldn't have, even though it's a small chance because they're not going all over the world. But yeah, and I love that players get to play in their home country, which they wouldn't get to do if they're not North American or Canadian. So it's putting the game out there to a wider audience, a more international audience, and I think it's really good for the league.
For sure. It's going to be super exciting to watch. Obviously, the Stars matching up against the Panthers should be a good series. Nick, what are your thoughts on the series and the matchup of this?
I think we get a great matchup. I mean, these Finnish fans, they get a great matchup
Yeah.
here. I mean, Florida Panthers defending Stanley Cup champs, 7-3-1 I think their record is, and the Stars got 7 wins also. I think it'll be interesting to see the goaltending matchup. Jake Ottinger's been great this season like we just talked about, but Sergei Bobrovsky for Florida, who was great in the playoffs last year, he's been struggling a little bit, so I think it'll be interesting to see if he can sort of get back on track here against the Stars. Also, Stars definitely got to watch out for Alexander Barkov, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the NHL. Maybe get some more recognition now that he won the Stanley Cup, but still, I mean, I think he deserves a lot more attention for what he's able to do on both ends of the ice.
Definitely. The goalies are going to be huge. We'll see if we see both of them because it is a 2-game series. So I'll ask you, Emily, against the defending champs, how do you think they're going to do in these 2 games?
I think it's going to be a really good matchup. Like Nick said, their stats are very similar. They all have really talented players, obviously. So I think it is a chance for the Stars to show that they have what it takes to beat defending Stanley Cup winners. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I also agree. I literally wrote down that Barkov is so underrated in the league. He's the captain of the team, and I feel like everybody's talking about Matthew Tkachuk. And I'm like, come on, but Barkov is so good too. So I think the matchup between him and Jamie Benn could be interesting because they're both veteran players. They lead their teams in different ways. They have different playing styles. So I think it'll be a really interesting game. I'm definitely tuning in to both of them.
Yeah, for sure. I like that comparison, the veterans. But these teams both are just so deep, and there's going to be a lot of matchups to watch. So I'll go to you, Nick. What matchup are you most excited to see?
I mean, I'm really excited to see like a guy like Barkov versus a guy like Rupe Hintz. I mean, 2 of players that I think maybe don't get the recognition they deserve. Rupe Hintz maybe not so much as Barkov. I don't think he's maybe as underrated as Barkov is, but still, I mean, I think you're getting to see some players here in this series who maybe don't get the recognition that they deserve. I think for the Stars, I think Jason Robinson gets the recognition he deserves, but some fans who maybe aren't aware of guys like Logan Stankoven, guys like maybe even Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah.
People outside of the Stars fans might not realize how good they are, and this is kind of like a global stage for people to see these players and get to watch these players, because I mean, every NHL fan who's available is going to be watching these games, and I think it's great that these players are going to get some more recognition.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's going to be super exciting to watch. Emily, what's your most excited, or which matchup are you most excited to see?
I would say this is kind of like a not super popular answer, but I would watch out for Brendan Smith from the Stars, who they just added in the offseason.
Former Devil?
Yes, former Devil, of course. And Matthew Tkachuk. They're both super aggressive players. Matthew's a forward and Brendan is a defenseman, but they're both super aggressive. They're not afraid to take penalty minutes. And so I think there could be some scrums between them too.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch. And the defensemen, I like that you mentioned that. That's going to be big, obviously. Heiskanen and Lindell getting their homecoming. So I'll ask you, what are you thinking about the defensive matchups in the series?
I mean, coming into the season, I was a little worried about the Stars' defense. I mean, of course, like Lindell and Heiskanen, I always had confidence in. But I mean, I think even Matt Dumba has come in and done a much better job than I expected him to do, which is great because the Stars were kind of banking on him finding that form that he had when he was in his prime in Minnesota. And I think he's done a really nice job of finding finding it. But I mean, Florida, they've also got guys like Gustav Forsling, who, I mean, he always is at the top of the plus-minus leaderboard, which kind of shows you that he's a great two-way player. So yeah, I mean, really look out for, of course, guys like Miro Haskin and Gustav Forsling, but I mean, also, look out for some of the, maybe not the guys you first think of, like a Matt Dumba. I mean, maybe you thought of him a few years ago, but now, I mean, maybe not quite. People think that he hasn't, maybe lost a bit of skill, but I think that he's shown that he's still got it, and maybe he could even score a goal or something. I mean, it would be great if he could show that he's still got it,
Yeah, that's key. Dumba's definitely going to be an important piece for this team. You lost some of your defensemen. I think he has that big presence, that physicality that you really need and maybe lacked last season, especially after, say, the injury to Hockenpah in the playoffs. I think this will be big. So I'll go to you, Emily. What are your thoughts about the defensemen, and who do you think needs to step up?
I think it's going to be a really interesting defensive matchup. They're both, like we've said multiple times, really deep teams, and I think both teams have really good defense. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. That's my prediction, that the defenses are so good that it's going to be back and forth, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight one. I'll ask you, Nick, 2-game series. Who do you think takes this one?
I'm going to say the Stars would win, Florida wins one. And that might not be the popular answer, but I think both of these teams have the capability to win. And I think that maybe if the Stars can sort of take advantage of Bobrovsky's struggle this season, they might be able to win both, because we're probably going to see each team's starting goaltender and each team's backup goaltender. And I agree with Emily. I think these are going to be low-scoring games. I think that each team's defense and each team's goaltending is going to sort of show itself. I said that Bobrovsky's kind of been struggling, but this is a good chance for him to get back on track, and I think he will. I think these are going to be low-scoring games, and like I said, I think Florida takes one and the Stars take the other.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. These are two teams, Stars, Panthers, both really deep, really solid. We've talked about it. Emily, do you think this could potentially be a Stanley Cup preview?
I think possibly. As not a huge Stars fan, I'm going to offend some Stars fans here. I think the Stars have what it takes to go far, but I don't know if they are going to be able to really hone in on that and make it all the way. I would love to see them do that, but I don't know if they're going to be able to. I think within a couple of years, definitely, once they get a little bit more experience with, the newer guys that they have, I think definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Obviously, a long season ahead for both of these teams, but it's going to be super exciting to watch. For now, though, we're going to move on to the NFL.
I'm here to rescue you.
Oh, my prince.
Não so fast.
This story's going to be awesome.
Good evening, my name is Amanda Hasbell, and I'm joining you here today in the Union Parking Garage. Today we're going to be going over how to drive safely in the parking garage. Let's go see. Oh my god, this girl just got hit by a car. Let's go see what happened. Ma'am, are you okay? Did you see that lady hit me with a car? Yeah, we did. I got it all on video. Oh my god. Let's go over here and talk about how we can prevent that. Yeah, not the hospital. Well, right now we're going to ask you a couple questions on how we can drive safely in the parking lot. What are ways that we can be aware of our surroundings?
Oh, we can look both ways.
Jenna, also, how about putting the distractions away?
Yes, just like our phones, turning our music down, and also not focusing on our passengers.
Where can you get information on how to get a parking pass?
Transportation.unt.edu.
If you park in a garage, make sure you pay on the app or look for further instructions on how you should pay.
And remember, no pass, no park. Let's all try to keep our Mean Green community safe.
Remember, we're all in this together.
Drive safe.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero. I'm joined by Jalen Bullock and Timothy Scott, and we got some costumes going on here. I'll start with you, Jalen. Explain.
All right,
Alvin?
so I'm, Alvin. Shout out Alvin and the Chipmunks. Of course, the other Chipmunks aren't here, but shout out my boys, Brandon and Colin.
Yes, sir. Timothy?
You could say I went a little bananas. I just felt like wearing a banana.
Sounds good to me. That works. So here we go. NFL season about halfway through now, week 8. It's been insane. I unfortunately have to start with my costume with the Dallas Cowboys. which is the most terrifying team to watch right now in terms of it's just scary and it's sad. But I'll start with you, Jalen. Cowboys suffer yet another loss, this time to the 49ers. What did you see from that game?
Okay, so losing, to the 49ers, which when they're healthy, very talented team, but a team that is filled with injuries right now, is just abysmal. Going 4 of 12 on third down conversions. Dak throws for 2 touchdowns, 243 yards, but then has those 2 interceptions, just counterproductive. This is a team that it's inconsistency that is really killing us, and in a tough stretch of games that is coming up, with the Eagles, with the Texans, with the Commanders. Right now, what we are seeing from them is it's just pitiful. Like, if I'm being completely honest, it's pitiful.
Yeah, it's sad. It is. And the Cowboys, obviously, they got back into this game. They made it a game, but you still lose 30-24. Comeback comes up short. Timothy, what went wrong for Dallas?
I think what went wrong was the third quarter. You go into the half with the lead, you come out, and you immediately give up 21 points. That's digging yourself into a hole you can't get out of. And with as inconsistent as the offense is, there's no way to get out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the one thing that did go, right was CeeDee Lamb finally got going late in that game. A little bit of garbage time, but still nearly 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's something you want to see, especially when there's been these chemistry questions between him and Dak. So I think that's important. Is that something, Jalen, that the Cowboys can take going forward?
100%. Getting CD involved is very key to the success of this offense, especially when the run game is just terrible at the current moment.
Non-existent, honestly.
But he did have, a great game with those 2 touchdowns. As you said, it wasn't garbage time, and it was a lot of defensive errors that were causing those touchdowns. But getting him that confidence is really going to be key for him because he's a great player. It's just about consistency. It's really about those chemistry issues, making sure that him and Dak are on the same page. But looking forward, I think this is a good game to move him forward in the season.
Okay, for sure. Timothy, I'll ask you. You got back into this game, it was late, so I'll ask you, do you think they really earned this? Do you think they really stepped up and played better, or do you think the 49ers just sort of took their feet off the gas?
I think it's a bit of a combination of both. I think, CD did find a rhythm late, right?
For sure.
And so that's him stepping up in a moment. But at the same time, 49ers probably put in a few guys just to get some reps. Yeah. You'd like to think they probably took their foot off the gas being up, like 17 in the fourth quarter, whatever. So it's kind of a mix of both, but certainly things to take away for the Cowboys.
Yep, definitely. Jalen, I'll ask you, where do the Cowboys go from here? Trade deadline coming up. Jerry said he doesn't want to do anything. Do you think they make any sort of move?
They have to make moves. Like, at this point, I think it's clear that they have to make moves. We went, try to get, another running back to help with the game, but we had like 50 yards rushing. We got to go and go out there and go to another team and pick up a couple of pieces, if I'm being completely honest. It's just, especially with the stretch of games, that is coming up with the Eagles, with the Texans, with the Commanders, 2 really, really, really talented teams. Of course, they also have the Falcons coming up this week. Changes need to be made now. This does not look like a playoff team. I'm going to be keeping it being. They do not look like a playoff team right now. Things need to change.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we will see, when it comes to the Cowboys. But moving on from them, talking about the rest of the NFL, you mentioned the Commanders, and they had just about one of the most exciting finishes you will ever see. Jaden Daniels' incredible Hail Mary to the former Cowboy, of course, Noah Brown. Take me through that play, though, Jalen. For the Bears, Tyreek Stevenson, should he have a job?
So, and that's he's a young player. So we have to start there. He's a young player. But leading up to that play, when he's taunting the fans, as a coach, I don't know if he plays this week. Does he keep a job? Yes, he's a talented player, who just made a immature mistake, which happens. It's a part of the game. But with he caused that touchdown. Taunting, then he tips the ball. It was a great throw. We'll start that. It was a great throw for Jaden Daniels to get it, into a spot where someone could make a play. Jaden Daniels is just a phenomenal player to begin with. It can't happen. It can't happen. That's definitely something that they're going to talk about this week, of those mental mistakes, and he's going to learn from that and just grow as a player.
For sure. Timothy, take me through the play. What'd you see? And, from the Bears standpoint, what do you do?
I mean, you just sit there and you rethink what your decisions are. I mean, it's certainly not an appealing look to have a guy taunting the crowd, certainly. But on the flip side, this is a Bears team that hasn't won on the road at all this year. They've struggled so much when they don't play in Soldier Field. And so you got to reevaluate being able to close out a game on the road. That's a game they win on the road. Big momentum swing, especially in the division they're playing. But to lose that in the fashion they did might have just killed their season.
Yeah, so it's a bad look. Obviously, the Bears in such a tough AFC or NFC North division, it's going to be very difficult for them to kind of climb back out of this, especially get some momentum going again. But from the Commanders' side of things, it's looking good. You're first place in the NFC East. You get this clutch, incredible walk-off play. Jalen, what are your thoughts on the Commanders this season and Jaden Daniels?
They're just a phenomenal team now. Like Jaden Daniels, a player, coming out of LSU, we knew he was great in college. It was just a matter of if he was going to be able to translate. And I'm going to keep it. I did not think he was going to be able to play this well this early in the career. The way that the offense is just rolling, that it's just clicking on all cylinders. He's one of the best. I think he's a top 5 quarterback right now. With just how he's able, to move the ball down the field and just in those situations where it is late game situations, against the Bears, to even have the mental capacity and the toughness, to be ready to make those throws and to get in scoring positions as a rookie. It's absurd, and he's going to go on to have, I think he's going to have the best, rookie quarterback season, even though that seems to happen every year. This Commanders team, they're going to have a deep playoff run. They're one of those teams that they could surprise a lot of people. Sitting at 6-2, but I think they're going to continue to whack on wins before they whack on losses.
Yeah, we'll have to watch. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, 2 great young quarterbacks. They're just going to get better. For Daniels' standpoint, if you're in the MVP conversation as a rookie, I think that says enough. But moving on to a young quarterback that hasn't quite found his way so far, Anthony Richardson, benched now permanently is what they've said for Joe Flacco, the veteran. I'll go to you, Timothy. How are you feeling about this move?
It's certainly one that'll raise questions. I think, the guy loses the game or leaves the game because he's tired, but a permanent bench, maybe that seems a bit extreme. I do like bringing in Flacco, and I think from the Colts' perspective, you gotta keep Flacco and Richardson together. Have Flacco plant a seed of wisdom within Richardson to grow up a little bit, mature, toughen up. Yeah, you're gonna be tired. It's the NFL, right? Maybe there's something going on under the surface that the people don't know about. But if you're going out because you're out of breath, come on, man, you're an adult.
Yeah, I think that's important. And these young quarterbacks, Levis, Bryce Young, looking up at that graphic, there's just haven't quite found their way the same way that, some other ones have. We just talked about it. But for Anthony Richardson specifically, like you said, checks himself out of the game on a crucial 3rd and goal situation down there in the red zone, checks himself out, says he's tired. I don't get it. It's inexcusable. Jalen, I'll go to you. What do you think about this move, and do you think it was the right one for Indianapolis?
I think it was the right move to put in Flacco, a veteran of the game, and a great mentor, as you spoke on, to really, play the rest of the season, to really give Richardson someone to watch, what he does on a day-to-day basis. And also, with Anthony Richardson leaving the game, that's just a terrible look on the organization. You are the face of the organization. And checking out mentally and literally physically from the game, and quitting on your team, in my opinion, is just terrible to see. And we have, as you mentioned, a lot of these young quarterbacks, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Justin Fields even, who get thrown to the wolves right when they enter the league, and it takes them a couple years to get their stride. I think what the Colts need to do going forward is just let him sit, just let him learn behind a veteran like Flacco, and just take the time that he needs, which I think that the Falcons are doing with Michael Penix. And whenever he does come to play, he's going to be a phenomenal player, And I think that the Colts need to do that. Anthony Richardson is a player, even coming out of college, we knew was going to be inconsistent, has all of the intangibles to be a great player, but we haven't really seen him be a great player. And I think that Flacco is going to help him evolve his game and get to the next level, and also help the Colts find their identity in these next couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's very important. You never want to see a young guy get benched like that. But at the end of the day, we've seen this system work. The Packers system, as I sort of call it, Rodgers, Jordan Love, whoever it is, developing under the veteran and finding, the wisdom. Even Dak when he was young with Tony Romo, I think that makes a difference. So it's going to be definitely interesting to watch, see how this whole situation progresses. But, moving on just to the teams in general, there's been disappointments, there's been great teams, there's been maybe some sleepers. I'll go to you, Timothy. Which team throughout the league have you been the most disappointed with?
Disappointed, I got to say, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. You make a Super Bowl, granted, 3 years ago now. You expect people to come back from injury healthy, and you're just not performing. The defense has not gotten any better. The O-line is not protecting Burrow any better than it has in the past. For a team with as much offensive talent as they have, you'd think they'd be winning more games, but they just haven't done anything.
Yep, definitely. Jalen, I'll go to you. Which team has impressed you the most this season?
So the most impressive, I think that's the Commanders.
Okay,
That's a no-brainer.
yeah.
So I'm going to go with them. And also the Vikings have also looked phenomenal this year. Sam Darnold, he's in the MVP caliber quarterback this season. But we've already spoken on the Commanders, and just a phenomenal team.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, once again, a guy that, looked like a bust. Looked like one of these young guys that didn't make it, and now, hey, maybe he does. So real quick to wrap it up, Timothy, early MVP conversation, there's a lot to talk about, but give me one. Who's your favorite?
I think the favorite is Jared Goff of the Lions. What he's doing there, more touchdowns than completions, if he can keep that up, that's hard to argue against.
Yep, it's going to be exciting to watch. I wish we had more time to talk, but it's going to be exciting to see how the NFL season continues to progress. We'll talk about the trade deadline next week, but for now, we're going to talk about some NCAA women's basketball.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon. Hey girl, you know you look good. I like the way you move and groove. I'm not sure.
What does Talons do?
So I'm the Vice President of External Relations for Talons. That means that I basically oversee all the external committees. Our external committees entail our Model A, it's a Mean Green Machine. So they bring it to football games especially, so every game it's kind of there, every home game. The Model A is like a symbol of UNC pride, and it's a big tradition that we are so lucky to uphold and maintain. When people look at it, they see it, and they're like, oh, that's the Mean Green Machine. There must be a game today or something to ramp up school spirit for basketball, softball, volleyball, any of those things. We have amazing teams, so we just want to show school spirit for them. Bonfire Committee, which is in charge of putting together the bonfire every year for homecoming. It's kind of just a whole semester-long process up until Build Week that we have to put together and oversee and make sure safety regulations are followed and risk management is taken care of. Cannon Crew, which oversees and takes care of the cannon. They fire it at games, they take it to special occasions.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I am joined by Tina Orozco and Sean Hunley, and we're going to talk some NCAA women's hoops. Obviously, coming back pretty soon, next week, finally. It's going to be exciting to watch. I want to start with the Mean Green, and I'll start with you, Sean. What are your thoughts about UNT going into this season, and can they pick up where they left off last year?
I'm going to be honest with you, Steven. I'm really looking forward to this women's season. 23-9 overall, 13-5 in conference play, 12-2 at home. The women's team absolutely dominated last year under Jason Burton, and I am really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do this season. I mean, can they just get over that hump and get that AAC title? I don't know. I think they can.
It's going to be exciting. You heard it from Coach Saban, so I think that means something right there.
Just saying.
Tina, I'll go to you. What are your thoughts on this team going into the season?
I also agree. I think they have so much potential going in. They had their exhibition game just yesterday, and they did phenomenal. They did say that they're struggling with turnovers, but offensively they were making everything. All their core players. So, and even Coach Burton. Yes, Coach Burton said that they're going to offensively try to focus on Tamisha Lumpkin and just kind of focus on her offensively. But I think if they work defensively, they have a pretty good shot this year.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about that exhibition game. Beat Midwestern State 98-48. So obviously a small school, just an exhibition game. But when you win by 50, I think that says something. Sean, do you think they can carry that momentum into the season?
Oh, 100%. One thing the Mean Green had, they did really well last year with their defensive play. I mean, not only were they able to, get a really big lead in the first half, then they kind of shut down the opponent in their second half. I think that's something that Jason Burton does really, really well. And I think that's, they've got a lot of returning starters. So, I mean, they've really got a good recipe for success this season. I think this is going to be an outstanding second year, not only for Jason Burton, but also for this, new revamped Mean Green squad.
Yeah, for sure, revamped, and I think that's important. I'll ask you, Tina, who do you think is going to be the most important player for this team?
I think obviously Lumpkin is, because she's a senior, she has this experience, and I believe it's her last year. So I think she's going to really try to prove herself, as well as our younger players. We have a transfer, Jalen Talley. So I think she's also going to try to prove herself too, to for the Mean Green and really show that she deserves to be transferred over there.
Yeah, for sure. That's important. Mix of veterans and young guys.
Right.
We had some people graduate last year, and that's, obviously part of the nature of college sports. But I'll go to you, Sean. Who are you most excited to watch, and who do you think is going to be the most important player for the Mean Green?
Well, she kind of took to Tamisha Lampkin. I mean, like 100%. I can't wait to see how she's going to do this year. I think she's going to have a breakout year, or sorry, not a breakout year, but an outstanding year compared to last year. But I'm going to look forward to see what Jacqueline Moore does. I mean, obviously she hit that 1,000-point milestone. Now they did lose Deani Robinson, and Desiree Colonel, but I mean that just kind of opens up the floor a little more for Jacqueline Moore, just to kind of get a few more points, just kind of bolster that record what she's got here at UNT. I think another person that I'm really going to be looking out for is Shamaria Duncan. She started all 32 games, and she was kind of in that, just kind of on the bottom half of that starting five. But I mean, I think now that like I said, the floor opens up a little more, she's going to have a bigger role. I think she's going to be just a little bit more of a workhorse than she was. I mean, she started all 32 games, but it's kind of hard when you got so many star players. So I'm looking forward to what she's going to do this year.
Yeah, for sure. And out of the young, the new guys, I'll go to you, Tina. Who do you think or needs to really step up and kind of maybe step into a new role this year?
I have Desiree Wooten. She's a sophomore. I think because we'll have some players leaving this year, I think she can really step up and hopefully kind of prove herself as upperclassman for the next upcoming years and kind of really build on what she had last year, because she really did have a good freshman year.
Yeah, for sure. This team has been really exciting. Just in Jason Burton, the coach, first season, you go out, win the ACC regular season title. Obviously, that's great. Got to cut down some nets, but I think you want to look beyond that. You want to see the postseason success. I'll ask you, Sean, going into a second year, what are you excited to see about for Jason Burton?
I mean, like I said it earlier, his defensive talent. UNT is, like I said, they're surrounded by a talented offensive core, but then they've got that defensive depth to where they can outscore opponents early, or they can do it in the second half and just absolutely just kind of quiet the noise, really kind of lean back on their team game. They do it so well, and I mean, if you look at Jason Burton's career record, he's got a lot of previous records held at his previous job. So I mean, he just kind of brings that mindset and talent. I love what UNT has just become under Jason Burton. And I think this is only going to be just a better and better year. The longer he's here, the better UNT is going to get. I mean, they were so close versus Tulsa last year. I mean, if you look at the team's two records, it's not very far off. I mean, it's like maybe one loss more that UNT had. So I love it. I can't wait to see.
Yeah, definitely. And Coach Burton, a guy that comes in, he's just been a winner. Wherever he goes, he's really had that success, and he set a tone. He feels like he's been here for 5 years when he's only been here for one. And, I think much like you could compare to Eric Morris on the football team, just getting that quick success. And now going into year two, what are you excited to see from him?
I'm excited to see, obviously had a good first year, but having more time to adjust and kind of rearrange where he wants everyone at, kind of gives him a bit more time to really build off of the first year. So I think they have a lot of potential under him.
Yeah, for sure. And just looking at the lineups, how do you think he's going to really manage all these, veterans with some of the new guys? Or how do you think that's going to go for them?
I mean, I think, you've got a lot of your returning starters. I think they're going to stay in those positions. But, I'm all for moving players around. If somebody has a breakout year, and maybe one of the starters, maybe like Duncan, say she doesn't do well in the first 5 games. Maybe he subs her out with a different player. So, I mean, basketball is very fluid. So it's really just about, plugging and playing. If UNT can do that, they'll be just fine. It's not really a specific player that I'm looking for, though.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Can't wait to see UNT getting back in action next Monday. But I'm going to expand, go around the country, around the NCAA. Got a lot of exciting teams, UConn, just USC, just to name a few. Sean, which players are you most excited to see around the country?
Oh, it's hard, Steven. I mean, I really researched this one. It was tough, but I got a few. I would say Audie Crooks from Iowa State. You've got Madison Brooks, obviously from that Texas team that went to the Elite Eight. They lost a player in the middle of the season, and of course, Paige Bruckers. I can't wait to see what she's going to do. You've got some young girls like Hannah Hidalgo and Malaysia Fulwiley on that Notre Dame squad. So a lot of young sophomore teams, and of course the player from USC. So a lot of
Watkins.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot wait to see what these young team members are going to do for their schools, especially for South Carolina. They're coming off a winning season. They won the championship. Now, what are these young sophomores going to do to kind of help them win another one, really?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot to look at. Tina, I'll go to you. Who are you most excited to see?
Honestly, Sean named everyone. I have
got everyone.
Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, and then Hannah Hidalgo for Notre Dame. And they're all playing for these teams that probably have a high chance of doing well in the NCAA as a whole. So I mean, it's not only them, it's the team that they have behind them as well.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's super important. And I wanted to ask you, Sean, with South Carolina coming off that championship, but you lose Camila Cardoso, have some players graduate. How do you think they respond? And they've been such a powerhouse for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I really love just the way their head coach is able to just kind of rally that team around. Obviously, you're going to lose a couple of players each year, but it's all comes back of that, kind of that ability to plug and play, that young stars. Where can they fit in? How are they going to fit in? What energy do they bring to that team that's going to help them just kind of propel them into the new season and kind of keep that just winning mentality going? So I think, like I said, it's all about the ability to plug and play. Can you rely on your defense and your ability to score early and hold down the second half?
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say, overall, the women's game has grown so much, in college. The March Madness NCAA championship, for the first time ever, actually had more views than the men's one. But I'll go to you, Tina. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, some of these really top women graduating, going, to the WNBA. How do you think college hoops responds, and do you think that they maintain this popularity?
I think, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they made a huge influence on them, but, missing them, it's a bit of a gap for the NCAA, but they do have, like how we said, Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, and Hidalgo. They're moving on, so hopefully that kind of fills that gap a little bit. Obviously, it's not going to reach the hype that Caitlin Clark got for everyone, and yeah.
All right, what are your thoughts, Sean? Do you think they can kind of maintain this success, keep these viewers?
I mean, it's like you said, it's hard to find that kind of generational talent. I mean, what Caitlin Clark did is just absolutely incredible. I mean, she's an incredible player. She's going to be known for a very long time. As far as maybe garnering as much TV coverage as the men's, I think it's going to be tough, man, because it's just, like I said, it's so rare to find those players. Now, granted, what they did for the sport is awesome. I love to see women's basketball more in the spotlight than in previous years. So, I mean, I think it's still going to be around, but I don't know if it's going to garner as much attention because it's all just going to depend on, who's the top talent in each league.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers, though. I think they'll be able to step up, maybe hopefully fill that role. So we're going to move on, though, and talk about some of the most feared players in sports history.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and it's hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Willis Library, located at the University of North Texas. It has computers, printers, and the building is open 24/7. By going online, you can book up to an hour of reserved space at one of the many private study rooms. Many of them are equipped with whiteboards, a table, and a TV to hook up to your computer. Textbooks can be checked out for free with a student ID. They also have many of these in ebook forms. This is still a library, so always remember to be quiet and respectful of other surroundings, especially in certain places where talking is not allowed. For example, the 3rd and 4th floor are completely quiet. As you can see, Willis Library has many options for students, with it offering many media sources and staying open all the time.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero. I am joined by Mason Branham and Jay Lathan. And in the spirit of Halloween, we got to talk about some of our most feared players throughout the course of sports history. It's going to be an exciting block. I'll start with you, Mason. Let me know your current most feared players.
Well, obviously, in the NFL, there's a lot of really good defensive ends. Obviously, you got Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Hutchinson. But one of the guys that I think is a little bit underrated is Max Crosby. I mean, 6'5", 255. He's a 4th-round pick. But he's just another one of those just game-wrecking defensive ends. I mean, so far in his career, he has over almost 350 tackles, 220 solo tackles, 58.5 sacks, 9 forced fumbles in just 90 games. And in college, he had 41 tackles for loss and 20 sacks, which is 2nd in Eastern Michigan history. I mean, he's just a guy, again, like Myles Garrett, like T.J. Watt, like Hutchinson, just a guy that's just going to wreck an O-line and just get after the quarterback.
Yeah, keep it going, keep it going. Basketball?
Another one for basketball, I mean, obviously, I mean, who other than Victor Wembanyama? I mean, come on. That's an easy one. 7'3", 235, only 20 years old. So far, has had a great start to his career. I mean, he's got 46.5% from field, 32.5 from three, averaging about 21 per game, 10 rebounds a game, 4 assists, 4 blocks. One of the things that I feel like is the most scary is that he's the most hyped prospect since LeBron. I mean, that's crazy. For MLB, I got my man Spencer Strider. Obviously, you know, whenever you think of Spencer Strider, you think of guys like, you know, Wild Thing, Greg Maddux, Smoltz, just elite pitchers. And for NHL, I mean, who else than Connor McDavid? I mean, he's just been one of the best players, and he's only the 6th player in history to receive the Conn Smythe Trophy on a losing finals team. That just speaks to how great of how feared of a player he is in the NHL.
For sure, some great names there. Jay, I'll go to you. Tell me your current most feared players.
Well, Steven, I took a little bit of a different approach here. I'm looking at guys you don't want to fight in the street. And starting off, we're going to go to the NFL. I'm going with Trent Williams. At 6'5", 318 pounds. He's nicknamed the Silverback. And we talk about his play on the field. I mean, he just erases defenders, whether it's Micah Parsons, whether it's Jadeveon Clowney, whether it's any top pass rushers in the league, Max Crosby as well. They go at it, and he can run too. He ran a 4.81 in the 40 at that size. That's terrifying. And I don't know if you're familiar with his game, but he once punched Richard Sherman in a post-game conference for quote-unquote talking too much.
Yeah, I'm familiar, and I'm still upset about what he did to my guy Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, come on now.
And I mean, on top of that, he's from Longview, Texas. And fans, I don't know if you guys are familiar with East Texas, but this is not a place with people who are to be messed with. They are people that have nothing to lose in East Texas, and Trent Williams belongs from that cloth. Second up, James Johnson in the NBA. You guys might not know him, but players in the league know him. They fear him for sure. The man's 6'7", 240 pounds, so he's already got the size off rip. He's a second-degree black belt with also some experience in kickboxing, where he has a 20-0 record. 20-0 with a 7-0 record in MMA. There's countless stories of vets in the league talking about how James Johnson just absolutely just beats guys up in practice, and then we'll just hug him and be like, you know what, you shouldn't have done that, but now you know. Like, his nickname is Bloodsport, guys. Like, we're talking about, but yes. And I'm moving on to the MLB. I'm going to go with Aroldis Chapman here at 6'4", 235. Now, he does have some videos where he's trained boxing in the offseason, but that's not really what's my biggest concern. This man is on record for having the hardest recorded pitch ever at 106 miles an hour. Nicknamed the Cuban Missile, I don't think I would want anybody who has the ability to throw 100 miles an hour throwing anything near my head with pinpoint precision, because I probably will end up in the hospital.
Yeah, pinpoint precision is the one thing I might argue with you on, but yeah, keep it going. On to hockey.
And I'm going to go with Nick Desaulniers. And Nick, now he's probably the smallest guy on this list at 6'2", 235 pounds, but he's one of the last true, enforcers in modern day hockey. We don't have that as much, but I mean, we have him on video taking down Matt Rimpey, who's a younger guy, but 6'9", so I mean, he gets down and he's gonna fight with anybody. He doesn't care. He wants to smoke with all of them. So I think going forward, that's the guys I would not want to see in the streets.
Yeah, what a list. I'm not messing with any of those guys. On to my current players. I'm going to start, you talked about it, Mason. So many good edge rushers in the NFL. For me, it's TJ Watt. I mean, just so dominant. Continuing his brother JJ's legacy. He's been absolutely incredible with Pittsburgh. Absolute just game wrecker of a player. On to the NBA, it's LeBron James. Even in his old age, I still picture Black Mask LeBron. He just finds a way to get it done. He steps up when it matters most. 40 years old, still in the best shape as just about any player. It's absolutely insane. On to the MLB. Look at that picture right there. I think that tells the story. Rougned Odor. We were talking about Jose Bautista in our first blog. Get him out of here. Odor knocked the lights out, and that's a guy I'm not wanting to mess with either. And on to hockey, I'll agree with you, Mason. Connor McDavid doesn't even have to fight. So dominant on every aspect of the game. Absolutely incredible. But let's keep it moving. Let's go to some historic players. Mason, I'll go to you.
Well, obviously, NFL, there's a lot of guys, but if you're going to talk most feared NFL defensive players, you got to talk about Ray Lewis. I mean, bro was one of the just hardest hitting linebackers the NFL has ever seen. I mean, he honestly should have gotten tried for attempted murder the amount of times that man just, anytime you were a running back and you saw Ray Lewis in the hole, you either ran out of bounds or just went down because you are not wanting to take a hit from that man. For the NBA, I mean, Black Mamba himself, Kobe Bryant. I mean, just obviously, a lot of people talk about, Jordan and LeBron, obviously, but Kobe was one of those guys that you did not want to fuck around with. I mean, I'm sorry, but you did not want to mess around with this dude. I mean, come on. How are you going to let a guy named Black Mamba just run loose? I mean, that's not something you should do. For MLB, obviously, you got Nolan Ryan, Babe Ruth, guys like that. That's legends. But for me, the most dominant pitcher, Randy Johnson. I mean, 10-time All-Star, 5-time Cy Young, 2001 World Series MVP. He's a Hall of Famer. He has 300K seasons 6 times and 4 straight Cy Youngs. Bro was just an absolute menace on the mound. And for NHL, I think one of the most feared players in all of sports is just Gordie Howe. You had 1,700 games played, 800 goals, 1,850 points. He was a 6-time MVP, a 6-time Art Ross Trophy winner, 4 Stanley Cups. Bro was just one of the greatest hockey players. I mean, he's nicknamed Mr. Hockey for good reason.
Yep, for sure. Real quick, Jay, take us back in time. Let's hear your list.
All right, first and foremost, you got Lawrence Taylor out of the NFL. I mean, come on now. I mean, he broke a guy's leg. He was on coke. I mean, this was an era where he was raging out, partying like a madman with Bill Belichick, of all people, as his defensive coordinator, and nobody batted an eye. This guy was one of the most dominant of all time. And going into the NBA, Charles Oakley. I mean, this is a man who was labeled as Jordan's personal bodyguard on the court. And to this day, he still fights James Dolan on the court side. That was a big thing. You want to go to Nolan Ryan. I mean, we have footage of him putting guys in headlocks, going down. And, I mean, I think he'll still get active to this day. And finishing off, I'm going to match with Mason. Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey himself, spent over 2,000 minutes in penalties. And that's a guy that's willing to get active at any moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been so exciting. What a great show. I want to talk about it more, but I will finish it off with this. Mean Joe Green. I mean, come on now. Famous Steeler, obviously you got that going, but the greatest UNC player of all time. So exciting. Kobe, Barry Bonds, Ty Domi, some incredible players. I wish I could talk more about them, but we are just about out of time here on SportsZone. Thank you guys so much for watching this spooky edition. Happy Halloween, you guys about to, go out, it's going to be super exciting, but happy Halloween. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow our socials, NTTV Sports. Check out NTTV Night in the News coming up next, and once again, happy Halloween.